Hi, I'm Ernie Conver. Welcome to my shop. I'd like to talk a little bit about maintenance of scroll chucks. In my article this month, I talked about all the different scroll chucks on the market, their advantages and disadvantages. And I'd like to take this opportunity in a video to show you how to disassemble and clean a chuck properly. Here we have a one-way stronghold chuck, and it is fairly dirty. It needs a good cleaning. And how often you clean a chuck is kind of how much you use it. If you drive it a lot, you're going to have more maintenance than if you leave it in the garage most of the time. So to start with, we're going to remove the top jaws. And I like to just take a little pointed awl and go in there and get the dust out of the screw holes. And then quick squirt of compressed air. And I can now get in here with a hex wrench and take these screws out and remove the top jaws. You often have to just give that a little leverage because they kind of bond together. Anytime you're changing jaws, it's good to have a cheap paintbrush just to brush all this dust out of here. And you do the same with the jaws here before you reinstall either this set or a different set. But having all these surfaces free of dust, when you take them apart, it's the first thing you should do. And when you put them back together, they'll seat correctly and you'll have good centering out of the jaws. Virtually all scroll chucks for wood turning are safety chucks these days. When you open a chuck, it is possible to lose the hold on this jaw. There's a device called a scroll in here that is making those go out in and out in unison. A scroll is really a screw thread on a flat plane. And I can do that. I can wind these jaws right out now. And if I lose the hold on one of those jaws, it'll be the number 4 jaw that loses the hold on the scroll first. And I were to start the lathe, that'll come out of there like a bullet. People are killed this way in industry. So it is good to make sure the safety is right in your chuck. There are 2 slots next to the number 4 and the number 2 keyway. If you put this jaw with a pin on the bottom over the number 4 keyway, you can extend the jaws outside of the chuck. If you put it over here, over the shorter slot, then you cannot get it further out of the chuck than the outside of the jaw. This is great for beginners, or if you've got a teaching situation or with kids, it makes the chuck a little safer to use. So I'm going to purposely remove these jaws now, and I'm just winding them right out like this. And that number 4 has lost its hold. Got a ways to go on the number 3. So I've removed the jaws. Now I have a couple of choices here. A lot of times, especially if you lubricate your chuck with a dry lubricant, which is what I try to do on most of my chucks. Some of your bigger chucks these days have a back plate and you actually put grease inside of them. It works great, but when you have to clean these chucks, which I do annually, you have to remove this back plate, take the scroll out, and put everything in kerosene for a while, or mineral spirits, and get them free of grease, then put everything back together and re-grease it. This you can generally clean with compressed air. And this is cleaned out pretty nice now. I can also now get in here and blow the scroll out, so I'm left here with a fairly clean chuck. Now, a lubricant that I found that works well with scroll chucks is a gun oil. Actually, it's Remington oil. It goes on like a light oil, but it evaporates after a while and leaves a very lubricating film on everything. And I use it to lubricate a heck of a lot of things these days. All right, we're going to put it back together. I'm going to put a key in it and turn it until I see the end of the scroll at jaw number 1. It will be the first to go in. 4 will be the last. And it's the reverse order when they come out. Here, so we'll put 1 in right there. And holding a little bit of pressure on it, I now turn the key clockwise. I can see the end of the scroll end up right there. There's number 2. Number 3, no, it's 4. There's number 3. And there's number 4. And of course, in the other direction, 4 is the last one to lose its hold. And that's why safeties are generally put on the number 4 jaw. And as you can see, these are coming in unison. And you want to bring them up and make sure they center. Perfect. I can now replace my jaws, finding the one with a pin in it. I like my jaws to come outside of the chuck, so I'll put it right down right there. Again, I'm going to check with my brush here that I've got all the dust out of there. See, there's a ridge here that engages a circular slot right there. You always want to put these in finger tight. In other words, don't use an air or an electric tool to run these screws in, or you're going to cross thread them. And now I'm going to torque those. Just a good twist of the wrench there to get them seated. Now that the rest of the jaws can go on randomly. And the last jaw in place. And that one's ready to work another day. Should be nice and smooth in operation now. Turns like a dream. First of all, other ways chucks a safety there, number 4 jaw. A very simple one is to put either a screw or a set screw in the number 4 keyway. And so the rack on the bottom hits that and it cannot come out of the scroll. So that's a very simple one. On this Vic Mark chuck, which is greased inside, you have to take out these 2 screws and then you reach through with a drift and you punch out that roll pin, and then you can take the jaws out, take the scroll out, and wash everything out. Both of these Novas require removing a circlip. We can simply reach in. Bring that up out of there like that. I can now pull the bevel gears out, drop the scroll, and now the jaws will come out. top and bottom together. This is a brand new chuck and quite clean, so there's not much to do, but it shows you how you get it apart. So I'm going to put one in first. Two, three, four, and I'm just going to bring them right together like that. And now I'll drop the scroll in. And the design of this chuck, you just simply cannot get the jaws out of it unless you take the scroll out. So it's really a good safety system. Put the bevel gears back in. Drop this in place, put the circlip back in, spray it with ram oil, and we're ready to go. So we'll just drop that circlip right on there like that. Just push it down. There it is, it's snapped in place. There it is, back together. Working perfectly again. So this has been a quick lesson in how you get inside of a scroll chuck and clean all the dirt and gunk out of it. I often do a lot of finishing while pieces are held in my chuck, and invariably finish will get on the jaws and even inside the chuck, and so you have to clean that off. So in that case, I will throw them in a coffee can with some lacquer thinner for a couple of hours. Of course, I wouldn't put plastic parts in there, just the metal ones, but that'll soak all the finish off of them, and you can bring them back to like new condition. And then put a little light oil on them, or grease in some chucks. As I say, the inside of this chuck, this big Axminster chuck is also greased inside. You have to pull the back off. To get the jaws out of this chuck, you have to take the top jaws off, close them all the way, reach inside with a socket head wrench, and take out a little screw in the number 4 jaw on the inside of the jaw, and that will allow you to take the jaws out. So there's always a way to get them out, but the reason you can't is because it's a safety chuck, and that's for your safety. Thanks for visiting my shop.